Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Ava. Great to see you, Ava. Stu is here too. We have Raven 1983 Witch. Great to see you. We also have Maggie Pie. Great to have you on, Maggie. Hope you're well. From Sweden. Hey. Good. Not good, Mudgun. I don't know. Good evening in Swedish. I'm sorry. We have A Maxi. Great to see you. Jared. Great to have you on. Hope you're well. Chatty Rat. Great to see you. We also have Colin. Great to see you too. Hope you're well. John O'Sullivan is here. Wim is here too. CJM. Great to have you on moderating. And Killer 2. Hope you're both well. We also have Emerald Mara. Great to see you. David McGuinness. Hope you're well. Guys, remember to check out Indie Truck Davies' channel. I'm sure one of the moderators will post a link. We have Katie. Great to see you, Katie. Oraman is here. Woman of Substance. Great to see you. Evening from Liverpool. Great to have you on. Big fan of Liverpool. We have also, let me see, Kevin Ladd is here. Jack is here too. Free Form Moves is here. We also have Stefan. Great to see you. David Ford is here. Random Scottish History. Great to have you on. Hope you're well. Remember, guys, also to check out Random Scottish History's channel. And hope you enjoyed our chat on Sunday, on the Sunday roast. We have Stephen. Great to see you, Stephen. Lefty Boater is here too. Just Saying is here. We also have Red Star. Once again, Red Star, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Sorry, haven't been around a great deal due to family and work commitments, but it's great to have you back on. Red Star, hope you're well. Daniel, great to see you. Chatty Rat, I think I said already. Young Ralph is here too. Katie, I love the EU. Galadriana, great to see you. Nico is here too. Great to have you on. We have Roshin, great to have you on. Hope you're well. And so many more. I can't say hello to everyone because we're on 263 viewers. Remember, guys, to smash the like button. You can support the channel by becoming a patron, or you can become a member, where you get access to Discord. And if you become a member on YouTube, you get an access to some things I'm going to roll out in the near future. You can also hit me with super chat and I'll read it out during the stream, or you can just support the channel by smashing the like button or sharing videos on social media. It's a great way to help out. Anyway, let's get down to business. So, business being the word. Brexit is a complete disaster and total lies, says former Tory donor. Guy Hans, no relation, I presume, to Greg Hans, a leading city figure, has called Brexit a complete disaster and a bunch of total lies that has harmed large parts of the economy. Speaking on the third anniversary of the UK's departure from the EU, Hans, the founder, chair, and chief investment officer of the private equity firm Terra Firma, said it's been a complete disaster. The reality is it's been a lose-lose situation for us and Europe. Europe has lost more in financial services, but we've lost as well. And the reality of Brexit it was just a bunch of complete and total lies. Nico, thanks so much for that super chat. I wonder what the Tories can't keep hidden tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow? So tomorrow is PMQs, but is there something particularly happening tomorrow, the 1st of February? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in the chat can enlighten me. Is there some? Of course, as soon as you say it, I'll be like, damn, why didn't I remember that? Can't find the interview of Lord Frost about Brexit, saying that Brexiteers knew about the problems which would arrive before they decided to ignore it. What is yours? I'm almost certain nothing is happening tomorrow. The mass strikes are, yes, general strike. Yeah, so it's not a general strike, but it's a lot of coordinated action is taking place tomorrow. Something about stir. Yeah, there's a coordinated strike action taking place tomorrow. Once again, it's not a general strike because a general strike would be the nuclear option, but you want to avoid pressing that button for as long as possible. Teachers are on strike tomorrow. Firefighters, I believe, are on strike tomorrow as well. Nurses, I think, are on strike as well. So it's the winter of discontent, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of it being resolved, because you have a Tory government who just want to break the unions, and they think that if they give in to one, they'll have to give in to all, and that's why they're resisting. Up the strikers. And remember, guys, as Alexis has told us on a number of occasions, clap for strikers. So tomorrow will be a good day to clap for strikers. Remember the clap for carers. So yes, thanks for that, Nico. And it will be an interesting day tomorrow. And it'll be PMQs tomorrow. So it'll be interesting what language is used by Keir Starmer towards the Prime Minister. There's a lot to say. Sticking with Brexit for a bit more, the only way that the Brexit put forward by Boris Johnson was going to work was if there was a complete deregulation of the UK and we moved to a sort of Liz Truss utopia of a Singapore state, and that was just never going to happen. Hence, a former donor to the Conservative Party told BBC Radio 4's Today programme. When did this guy give money to the Conservatives? The British population was never going to accept a state in which the NHS would be demolished, where free education will be limited, where regulation with regard to employment will be torn apart. It was just complete and total absolute lies. The biggest issue about it, and you can take the Brexit bus as a good example, is the lies that Boris Johnson, the Conservative Party, told about the NHS. In fact, what they did was throw the country and the NHS under the bus. These are pretty strong words from a former Conservative Party donor. According to the polling expert Sir John Curtis, actually, on average, polls now suggest that 57% of people in the UK would vote to rejoin the EU. Wow. Now, you've seen a lot of polling about how upset people are with Brexit, and people are very upset. But that doesn't always translate into, yes, we'd like to rejoin the EU. And it's easy for people to be angry and say, yeah, I want to rejoin now. There isn't a campaign to rejoin. That's the problem. Neither of the main parties are talking about rejoining, especially the Conservatives. And in order for Europe to consider the UK rejoining, they would have to see massive support from the two main parties to rejoin the EU. And I think we're a long way away from that yet. Because there's no, as I said before, there's no point having one party saying, yeah, we want to rejoin, and the other, no. And it's flipping between the two. One general election cycle, it's the Labour Party, the next it's the Conservatives, then the Labour Party. Who wants to entertain that? Daily Blaze, great to see you on the stream. Remember, guys, to check out Daily Blaze's channel as well. Really good. I saw a little bit of your video today where it was I think it was today. I saw it today, but I don't know if it was uploaded today, with the select committee. That was really good. And the former Tory chair struggling to answer questions, as always. Alistair, thanks so much for that super chat. Strike bill in Lords now. It'll pass Waste Monster. Yeah. So what's happened was the anti-strike bill has passed through the House of Commons. Now it's going off to the House of Lords. It'll likely be amended, and I think you're going to see a bit of tennis taking place or ping pong ball of a bill going from back and forth between the House of Lords and the House of Commons. It'll be sent back for amendments, and there'll be votes on that. It's going to take time. It's not going to be implemented straight away, fortunately. But unfortunately, I believe it will be implemented at some stage. Now, a small silver lining, well, not, how can I say? sliver of hope here is that the EU could come to the saviour of British workers, because there's been pressure put on the European Parliament and the European Commission to punish Britain, and this pressure is coming from workers or trade unions within Europe. They're putting pressure on the European Commission to take a hardline approach with the UK if they push through this bill. So, people like Mick Lynch, who campaigned for or supported Brexit, his rights may be eventually saved by trade unions in Europe. So a bit of solidarity there. It's not guaranteed yet, but that's a possibility. Number 3, thanks so much for that super chat. Financial deregulation on the way, another crash. Yes, this was the problem back in the run up to 2007, 2008, when there was a subprime bubble. There was complete deregulation over the years running up to that, that allowed, real cowboy behavior within the markets taking place and financial services. And the whole thing burst and collapsed. And then we saw the damage that was done by that. I think there's a real risk of that happening again, because you have people in power who want to deregulate, continually deregulate. And regulation is there to protect consumers, it's there to protect workers, it's there to protect the state from, for example, bubbles like this. And if it's taken away, of course, the security measure is removed and the risk is much higher. No Dialsi says, James O'Brien on LBC, there's so many zeros. I heard this today on LBC. There's so many zeros in the amount of money that the UK is losing, that you need to you need a bendy bus to print it. Yes, so many, 350 million. No, it's 100 billion a year lost because of Brexit. Thanks, number 3. Red Star once again. Thanks so much, Red Star. Great to see you back. Not great to see that New Zealand has lost a very good prime minister. She wasn't perfect, but she did a good job with the issues that she had to deal with. Yes, and she was held up as an example of how to deal with the pandemic. New Zealand, recognized all over the world as doing a very good job when it came to the pandemic, and a liked leader. But I think she said, it was too much for her. It was too much stress, and she had to give it a day or call it a day. But yes, and I hope that whoever replaces her will be as good, if not better. But I don't know if they can find somebody better than the previous prime minister. Wow, Claudio, thanks so much for that super chat. Thanks for being such a diligent and unwavering advocate for rejoining and for exposing the nonsense of Brexit from a British Romanian businessman. One of these people Farage doesn't want to live next to. Thank you so much for the support, Claudio. And Farage, of course. My God, what has Farage done to Britain? And he's still being trumpeted as some sort of patriot. The amount of damage, £100 billion a year. How? And I've often asked the question: how come, people in fishing villages and farmers around the UK haven't, marched on Nigel Farage's villa or his mansion and given him a bit of a talking to, considering what he told them. He told them that their lives would be much better. There are fishermen who have struggled, who have unfortunately taken very drastic decisions in their lives when it comes to their businesses, and the legacy is nothing but destruction. Businesses closed down, families broke up, because of the damage that Brexit has done, to especially the fishing communities. That's something that really pisses me off, is that you had the fishermen who were told by Farage, he went there all the time to convince these people, yes, you need to leave the EU and everything will be so much better. You can have your cake and eat it. And these are the ones who are struggling probably the most because of Brexit and because of Boris Johnson's deal. And we don't hear a peep from them. Yeah, there's a bit of grumbling, but no protest. If these were French fishermen, they would be marching, dumping raw fish, rotten fish on the steps of Number 10 or on Downing Street. On Westminster, outside Parliament. Politicians would be afraid to leave the building. But in Britain, it doesn't seem to be anything. It's we were conned, but we just have to move on. And other business leaders as well, business leaders who are struggling at the moment because of the costs related to Brexit, the lack of ability to import or to export, the problems with paperwork, all of this. Many small business owners were convinced Brexit is the solution. The big businesses, they understood the consequences Brexit would have, but they were financially protected from it. They had a firewall. Small businesses did not. As far as I know, there was one small business selling glass eels, very niche business. As far as I know, it closed down, and it was used as a poster boy for UKIP. So I want to wish Claudio the best of luck in the future. I hope you don't have to deal with also people like Farage in your day-to-day life. And thanks so much for the super chat. We have Mr. Peter KJ. Thank you so much once again. Great to see you. UK rejoin Scottish, Indian, Irish reunification. Which will happen first? It's an interesting question. I've always said Irish reunification is going to be a very slow process, because there will be a vote, there will be a border poll at some stage in the near future, but you need to convince the unionist community in Northern Ireland that it's in their interest. A lot of people understand it's in their interest. You get back into the European Union. If Ireland becomes united, there's that benefit. So the benefits of a united Ireland also still have to be sold to the unionist community, and I prefer it to happen later, but in a peaceful way, than for it to be rushed, because this is unlike Brexit. There's a real risk of violence if this doesn't go well, and I think it's important to take time to build bridges between communities, to convince the unionist community it's in their interest. Some people will never be convinced. Those people have to be left behind. I'm thinking of the DUP types, not the DUP MPs or MLAs, but I'm talking about DUP voters, because the MLAs and MPs, they'll just switch. They'll join whatever the mainstream parties are in Ireland, those being probably Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael. They don't care about that. They care about having a fat paycheck at the end of every month or every year, whenever it is. They don't care about at the end of the day. They don't really care about the politics. If they think they can win a seat, they'll say whatever is necessary. So I think a lot of the politicians will be merged into the mainstream parties, or there may be new parties that they would join. But the voters, the people who cast a ballot for these far right unionist parties, those are the ones I'm concerned about, and the loyalists, whether they will resort to some sort of terrorism once again. So that's Irish reunification. I think that's going to be probably the longest one, or probably on par with the UK rejoining. Now, Scottish independence, I think there's the probability that at the next general election, the SNP and the Green Party will run on a ticket of a vote for us is a vote for independence, and there will be a de facto referendum. I've said this is probably the best way to go for a long time because it's more difficult to corrupt. If you have a referendum, there's the issue of, do people know what they're voting for? What are the consequences of this? It's people will vote. There are positives and negatives of that, but I'm generally of the idea that this is the job of Parliament. It's not the job of the people. So I'd be more inclined to support a de facto referendum through a vote for a party. And that could happen at the next election. So I think what would happen in the case of Scottish independence, I'm not an expert. There are experts on the stream for sure. But I think what would happen there is you would have a meet. So the vote would come in. The SNP, the Greens would win a majority. They would say we're going to have a we're declaring independence. It's likely at that stage there will be a Labour government in Westminster, and they would begin the negotiations, and then there would be, I would say, a withdrawal agreement. So Scotland would withdraw from the Union, and that's where they would sit down and negotiate things like trade. They would negotiate how the borders would work. They would negotiate defence. All of the things that we talk about, they would be negotiated. And that's why I think it's a bit redundant talking about, how would the border work and what would this happen? How would that happen? Because first of all, there hasn't been independence yet. And second, these things would be negotiated. So it's pointless talking about how, would you have an electronic border, or where would it go, or how would it work, who would operate it? It's pointless talking about that now. It's not because it needs to be avoided, but because those things would be negotiated between Westminster and Holyrood, or wherever the new parliament is going to be. That's what would happen. So I think Scottish independence is probably the most recent of those possibilities. The nearest one, and then UK rejoining the EU, that's going to take some time. As I said at the beginning, you'd need both parties on board. They'd have to be both pro-European. The Conservatives used to be pro-European, not very pro-European, but much more than they are today. And I think you'd need to sweep away all the Brexiteers and crazy people, and or as much as possible, and you'd have to have a moderate pro-European Conservative Party and a moderate pro-European Labour Party, where you have the extremes, but they don't have any say, or they don't really have any power. That's what you'd need to have. Then you could convince the European Union, yes, we are a government that is serious about rejoining. Even if the Conservatives get into power, it's not going to change anything. So there are a lot of things required there, so it's difficult to make a prediction of when that would actually happen. Max is the man. Thanks so much, Daniel. Daniel Craigie. Thanks so much, Mr. Peter KJ. Welsh Skies, lovely name. It was the loss of my EU citizenship that has turned me from a unionist to a Welsh nationalist. Wales and Scotland should leave and rejoin the EU. Unfortunately, when it comes to Wales, it's probably even further down the road than Scotland. But I do believe that if Scotland becomes independent, it would really put booster rockets under Welsh independence movements, or the Welsh independence for sure. It would definitely give it a boost. And I really don't understand why there isn't greater support for independence in Wales. Perhaps because I think the Labour Party in Wales are doing a pretty good job. Mark Drakeford is extremely popular. So that could change if he was replaced with another Labour leader who wasn't as popular. But I definitely do think in independent Scotland would boost support for Welsh independence in Wales for sure. And of course, Wales is, I think, majority of people in Wales are pro-European. So, irrespective of what the vote went in 2016, I think that has changed a lot, especially the younger generation. And I definitely think Wales would have a route into rejoining the EU, or joining, as the case may be. Maggie Pie, thanks so much. Thanks Wales. Maggie Pie, thank you so much for that super chat. Remember that many of the EU do miss you. Yes, look, I've said before, when Britain left, Europe lost something. I know a lot of Europeans are saying, oh, we don't want Britain back, it was a troublemaker. But I think a new pro-European Britain would be welcomed back. I think there has to be a lot of soul searching, there has to be a lot of reflection before we get to that stage. And we're in a very toxic environment at the moment with the Brexiteers and Boris Johnson still trying to get back into number 10. And the sort of rhetoric you're seeing on gammon Brexit news and stuff like that, that has to sort of die down, that has to be sort of washed away. But when it is, I think there's a real possibility that Britain could apply to rejoin. And of course, it requires countries in Europe to be willing to allow Britain to come back in. There would be negotiations and, first PR, yes, proportional representation, first past the post would probably have to go. There could be some strict requirements on the UK, stuff like maybe joining the Euro. Now, joining the Euro, there are countries in the EU which who are saying, yeah, we will join the Euro at some stage, but they're not actually implementing the Euro. They can get away with it, but the UK would have to say, yes, we will sign up to the Euro, but eventually say, well, we don't actually have the paperwork ready yet, and we'll keep the pound, like some countries have been doing. Thanks for that super chat. Just make sure I don't miss anyone else, and do moderators tell me if I miss anyone. Anyway, let's move on. I just want to show you two. So this is a former Tory minister, a Tory donor, who said, "That's enough." So I want to show you two clips. This is from BBC Newsnight yesterday, and it's a business owner who describes exactly what Brexit has done to his business.
I'm Managing Director for Robinson Brothers. We develop and manufacture chemicals in the UK, and therefore we import the raw material from the EU and export back to the EU.
And how's Brexit affected your business?
Disastrous, really. I'm just picking up on the points about being competitive. Forgive me for not chuckling about that, because Brexit has made us anything but competitive because of the extra cost that we face just on compliance alone. We've had a series of regulations within the EU and that we complied with. There's one particular group of regulations called the REACH regulations. I won't bore you with them, but they're chemical regulations where, for me to comply, if the UK wants its own version, is going to cost me 1.6 million. That will put me out of business completely.
Sorry, a one-off sum of
yes.
1.6 million?
1.6 million. But in the meantime...
So this is what the UK wants to do. The UK says, we don't want to follow EU regulations anymore. We want to have our own regulations. We want to duplicate. Jacob Rees-Mogg was in charge of efficiency some months back. Efficiency. And he wants to duplicate regulations. So the EU will have their regulations and we'll have our own regulations. And if you want to export into the EU, then you have to comply with both regulations. And there's talk about tests have to be, certifications have to be paid for in order, because the certifications don't drop from the sky. They're not sent to people, out to businesses in the post. Companies have to pay for these certifications. They have to spend money to have these certifications. And this would, as he said, 1.5 million, and it would close his business. So he's been told, if you want to continue to operate, you have to spend 1.5 million for nothing, for duplicate, because the regulations are probably pretty much the same. That guy has an Irish accent. I think, he definitely does. He's probably somebody who moved to Britain and started a business, or he works in. He joined a business there, and moved his way up to the level of CEO.
And that would put you out of business?
That would put us out of business. But in the meantime, right, we registered all our chemicals in the EU under this REACH, okay? We paid for this data. It's ring-fenced within the EU. We now cannot access that data because it belongs to the EU. We have to pay for access. And I have to pay somebody to allow me access to our data because of Brexit.
So can I ask you then, Mr. Hanrahan, is it possible to estimate the yearly extra cost to your business?
£155,000 per year we're paying currently.
Because of Brexit?
Again, it irritates me because, and I listened to the Chancellor the other day saying, we need to be innovative and creative, and £150,000 for me would make me very, very innovative, because that is stopping me being innovative in the company, because I'm just wasting it on duplication and I'm wasting it on compliance. And this compliance does not help you, does not help me, does not help our employees, does not help the environment.
Well,
it's a total waste.
There you go. £155,000 a year on duplicate to innovate. Was it Rishi Sunak said, yeah, we're going to get businesses to innovate. There was the head of the CBI, I forget what his name is, Dank, something like that. Tony Dank, I think his name is. He was trying to suggest that Brexit will force businesses to innovate. And that's a positive thing. Well, some businesses will survive. I've said this before. It doesn't mean that all businesses will close because of Brexit. Some will survive and some will not. Businesses who can adjust, and it requires adjustment, but businesses who can adjust will adjust and they will survive. Those who can't will close down. And that was not necessary. It's not like something happened to Britain and it had to make these choices. Like when I compare this, Tony Danza, no, not Tony Danza, Tony Danker, that was it. But he has his sovereignty. But I was saying before, it's different to the pandemic. The pandemic nobody could control the pandemic. Nobody had a choice when it came to the pandemic. So, when it came to, businesses, some businesses adapted and they allowed workers to work from home and they encouraged people to work from home. And it saved the businesses money, saved them on rent, it saved them on insurance, things like that, costs running these buildings. And in a way, they were able to monitor their staff much better because you log in, you're registered. When you log out, you're registered. And if you take breaks, there's a camera to keep an eye on you. But businesses that adapt can survive. But when it came to Brexit, this was something imposed by the state. There was no requirement for any of this, but it was imposed. Roisin, thanks so much for that super chat. The EU isn't just there to sort out the British economy. Yes. And this is a common theme you hear with the Brexiteers. They're doing it to punish us. They didn't want us to leave, and the EU is treating us like a third country because they don't like us. Nothing to do with... It wasn't necessary to become a third country, but Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers wanted to become a third country. There was the possibility with Theresa May to remain within the single market and the customs union in order to sort things out. Like I said before, Article 50 shouldn't have been triggered until people knew what the hell Brexit was going to be. There should have been an impact assessment. Economists should have been brought in and an independent body hired to explain to the public, this is what Brexit will mean to businesses, to individuals, to trade, all these different things. And then, once everyone knows what's going to happen, then you trigger Article 50, because there was no requirement to trigger Article 50. People didn't vote to trigger Article 50. This is the problem with Brexit. It was never clear. It's a stupid analogy, but I often make it, and I'll do it again. It's like I say, I want a pizza. I don't say exactly what type of pizza. I just say, I want a pizza. So if you bring me a picture of a pizza, well, then you fulfilled my request. No? If you bring me a frozen pizza, you fulfilled my request. If you bring me a pizza with pineapple on it, I know some people like that, but, I haven't stipulated what I actually want. And this is a bit like what Brexit was. People said, I want to leave the EU. Leave means leave. Do you remember that? Brexit means Brexit. But nobody actually knew what Brexit actually meant. It's like... But I love the analogy, and I've heard some of them as well before. I love the analogy of Brexit is like watching people who can't read burn down your library. Or watching your library burnt down by people who can't read. I don't remember which order it was. So this is a businessman who's losing £155,000 per year because of Brexit. Now, with that £155,000, he could have maybe bought new equipment. He could have hired new staff. He could have spent it on advertising to promote his business. No, it's gone down the toilet. Whoa, we have a super chat from a member. Hey, thanks so much for that super chat. Rowan, Brexiteers pre-2016. EU is terrible at project members, at protecting members' states' rights. Now, the EU is being unfair to protect its members' rights. Yes. Thanks for that super chat. And it's the very first super chat from a member. Thanks so much, Rowan. Yeah, it's we need to get out because it's terrible at protecting the members of the European Union. And now it's unfairly protecting France and Germany. Why it's unfair? It shouldn't be treating us like a rogue state. The people, were complaining about protectionism, and now people are realizing what the removal of protectionism actually has. I covered a farmer, a sheep farmer, who's saying, who laid it out quite clearly. We can't survive on this. We can't continue in this way. Anyway, let's get to another video. This is Anne Whitcomb about Brexit.
I feel very good about the fact that we got Brexit. What I feel absolutely rotten about, and I say this in my excellent article in the Daily Express tomorrow, every Wednesday, as I say tomorrow, we have taken absolutely no advantage of it. Yeah, I mean...
So it's... And here we are, back to the old mantra again. Nothing wrong with Brexit, it's that the Tories didn't implement it correctly, or they didn't take advantage of the benefits. So there are no benefits, but Anne Whitcomb will say that there are, but we just haven't taken advantage of them. Jared McCartney, thanks so much for that super chat. Engineer economic migrants invading EU for better life. Sorry, English immigrant. Sorry, I didn't see the English immigrant. Economic migrants invading EU for a better life. It'll be difficult for them too with the ending of freedom of movement, but yes, it wouldn't blame people for looking for a better life, and it's likely to be the case. People will move. Maybe not to Dublin, it's very expensive, but to other parts of Europe. And we've seen it with the financial services. Financial services are moving to cities like Milan in Italy, and they're bringing staff with them. You bring the knowledge with you, and it's very difficult to coax that knowledge back. It's very difficult to bring that business back. Even if the UK were to rejoin the EU tomorrow, it's, these companies have already invested the money in the move. It's very expensive to move back. Which is really annoying, because it's the ordinary people who are suffering the consequences of this, not idiots like Anne Whitcomb.
Rishi Sunak, who voted leave, says, well, we've got...
He didn't just vote, he campaigned for Brexit. Did you not see those videos?
Trade deals with over 70 countries, that's true. It's also true that we've taken...
Okay, but what is the result of those trade deals? A lot of them are rolled over deals, so there's no benefit there. And if we're talking about New Zealand, Japan and Australia, they add almost nothing to GDP, but at the same time, Brexit is costing £100 billion a year.
Taken back control of legal immigration.
What the hell is that? We took back control. You always had control of immigration. Like, the numbers of people arriving in the UK have increased. So how how was it necessary to leave the EU in order to control immigration?
But what else have we done? We've still got all the EU laws on our statute book. We're always being told they're going to be, but they're still there. We've made a complete...
Do you know how long it takes to write a new law? Like, they're talking about, we want to get rid of 4,000 of these laws by the end of the year. And at the same time, last year, you had Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about we need to cut the civil service because it's inefficient. So you want to remove staff who would be looking at these laws, and you want to throw 4,000 laws. Just think about these. Each of these laws have to be reviewed. You have to understand what is the impact on businesses, on society by changing this law. What is the impact this removal of this law will have on other laws? Like, I'm not an expert, but I have a bit of an understanding that if you remove a law, it will have a consequence. Like if it's environmental protection, you remove the law, businesses won't, okay, can we dump raw sewage in the, well, maybe not raw sewage, that's already legal. Can we dump this chemical into waterways? Yes or no? Well, the law doesn't, what does the law say? Oh, the law is gone. The law doesn't say anything. So if I do it, will I get punished? Probably not, because we don't have a replacement law. Because you know how long it will take to replace the law? So are they looking at each law with a fine-tooth comb and saying, okay, this law we're going to modify to make it more British or something? No, they're saying, well, we're going to dump a load of laws and end up with 4,000 fewer laws. But like, we don't even know which laws they're going to keep. Nobody has explained, nobody has given a list. These are the laws, so we can actually look at them and try to understand what they are. They just said 4,000 random EU laws. Or 4,000 laws that come from the EU. Nico, thanks so much for that super chat. €6 to skip the disgusting €6 to skip the disgusting woman, please. Thanks. Bribery. I have to let her speak for a little bit more, and then I definitely will remove her. I promise.
Mess of Northern Ireland, and above all, we've got an uncompetitive economy. Now, the same IMF that is now predicting that we will have the lowest growth rate in the G7 did actually say, when the Liz Truss budget took place, that if that had been implemented, and she went at it like a bull in a china shop, but if that had been implemented, we would have had the highest growth in the G7. And I think that...
Where did they say that? I don't remember them saying that. Like, the IMF said that if Liz Truss's budget had been implemented, the mini budget had been implemented, the UK would have had the highest growth rate. Where did they say that? Did the IMF actually say that? I'm really confused.
That sums up my problem. We're uncompetitive. We're highly taxed. I can't think why any...
It's the lowest corporation tax. Well, not the lowest, but one of the lowest corporation tax in Europe. Britain doesn't have the highest... Please take her away. The chat has decided we'll get rid of Liz. I was going to say Liz Truss. Anne Whittingham. Okay, well, let's leave Anne Whittingham for tonight. I have been bribed to get rid of Anne Whittingham. Thanks, Roshi. Wow. Uncompetitive equals austerity, all about scarcity. Scarcity is not competition, it's corruption. The natives are getting restless. So yes, okay, let's move on. Staying with Brexit, of course, Lord Frost says he's not surprised people disappointed by Brexit, and some Brexiters weren't honest about its impact. Finally, we have Brexiters were not honest from Mr. Honesty himself, Lord Frost. Yesterday, Unheard, is this a right-wing blog or something? I think it's a right-wing blog. Yesterday, Unheard published polling suggesting that in almost all parts of Britain, people are more likely than not to think that Brexit was a mistake. As Freddie Sayers explained in his write-up, Boston and Skegness in Lincolnshire is the only parliamentary constituency where a majority of people disagree that the UK was wrong to leave. Boston I covered in a video, and Skegness. What's wrong with Boston and Skegness? Really gaslit. They've been gaslit so much that they don't even need heating anymore. 3 years after we officially left the European Union, residents were asked whether they agreed or disagreed with the statement Britain was wrong to leave the EU. The headline results suggest the country has dramatically changed its view since, and you can see here. So green is regretful, and pink is least regretful. So the most are Bristol West. Let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. You can see it a little bit better. Edinburgh South. Others are Hackney North and Stoke. East Yorkshire is the least regretful. They think it was a good idea. So Lord Frost, who was Boris Johnson's chief negotiator for the Brexit deal and then served as Brexit minister in 2021, has given an interview to the news agent's podcast and he said he was not surprised people were disappointed by what had happened since the UK had left the EU. Asked about the unheard polling, he said, "I'm not surprised that people feel a bit disappointed with what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years. I think the government hasn't done as much as they could to push forward the benefits." Once again, what are these benefits? How can you push forward something that doesn't exist? If they only had ridden these unicorns through Westminster, people would have seen the benefits, but nobody rode those unicorns. I think the government hasn't done to get growth back to the economy and so on, has made a few mistakes. How can you get growth if you have an automatic drag on growth? How can you get investment in if you're telling people, if you're bringing in employees from Europe, they're going to be treated like crap. We don't want them. And if you try to invest in this country and you want to export, well, that's going to be problematic. The way you encourage businesses in is to say we're open for trade. No, not that we have put barriers to trade. We put in barriers to trade, and we've given racists and bigots a license to be racist and bigoted. Frost also said that some Brexiters had not been honest about the economics, including himself. No, I always said that there would be a small trade effect from Brexit, and a lot of Brexiteers have not been honest enough to acknowledge that. I always have. Now, he said after the fact, there will be some adjustment. That's hardly there's a bit of a difference between there will be a bit of adjustment and yes, we're going to lose £100 billion a year. But I also believe that domestic reform and change and the productivity growth is going to take us beyond that. Once again, I really wish people would ask him, how is the economy going to grow if you don't have access to the workers you need and you can't export to the markets that you normally sold to before? How are you going to grow the economy? Because normally an economy starts out by selling to within itself, selling goods and services within itself. And then if it wants to expand, if it wants to grow, then it has to sell goods and services outside. And it's generally based on your geographical location. The United States sells most of its goods and services to Canada and Mexico. Trades mainly with Canada and Mexico. Countries in Asia trade with their neighbours. In Europe, it's the same. We trade with our neighbours. Lord Frost doesn't seem to understand that. We bribed Max to skip to the next item. I was corrupted. And finally, just one more thing on Brexit, and then I promise I won't talk anymore about Brexit. Michel Barnier praises Starmer as a European. Maybe this is the kiss of death, I don't know. To mark the anniversary of Brexit, Michel Barnier, the EU's Brexit negotiator, has given an interview to Andrew Marr for his LBC show at 6 p.m. The interview was pre-recorded, and in it, Barnier said he thought that a deal on the Northern Ireland Protocol was now possible because Rishi Sunak is willing to take responsibility for what the UK agreed, unlike Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. Speaking about the prospects of a deal, Barnier said, well, no, we can leave that. We'll just go to the part where he talks about Keir Starmer. Barnier also said that he thought Keir Starmer had the capacity to be Prime Minister and that he regarded him as a European. Asked what he meant by that, Barnier said, I think that Keir Starmer, as many politicians, even in the Tory party, know that to face some global challenges, we have to work at a European level. Even if UK or Norway or Switzerland, we need to work as a continent to face some global challenges better together than alone. So that's going to piss off some Brexiteers, especially ones within the Labour Party. See, he was a damn European traitor anyway. He never really supported Brexit, even if he says he does. Although he doesn't say he supports it, but he wants to make it work. Freddie B, thanks so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream. Talking out both sides of his mouth. Good stream. Thanks so much, Freddie. Yeah, Frost used to be the head of the Scottish whiskey industry, export industry, and then he became a Brexiteer. He was talking about how it's important to be as part of the single market. I really wish somebody would take that clip of him and play it to him and ask him, please explain how that guy is wrong or was wrong. Jared, once again, thanks so much for that super chat, Jared. Tories and George Santos are so alike. George Santos being the guy in the US, crazy Republican, isn't that correct? I haven't been following the US stuff for a long time. Is Trump in jail yet? That's the thing I normally ask. Is Trump in jail yet? Tell me when he's in jail. Hopefully he's going to go to jail. Because we keep hearing about, this is the time Trump has gone too far. Now he's going to go to jail. And like every month we hear the same thing. I really do hope he's going to go to jail. So guys, we're about halfway through the stream. I want to say just hang in there because we're going to take a short comic moment and then we'll be back with the serious stuff in just a jiffy. I hope you enjoy this.
Excited today to launch the government's new scheme, Hospitals at Home. Yes, colonoscopies in the kitchen, laparoscopies in the lounge, tonsillectomies on the table. I mean, this is really going to change the NHS. And we haven't got the staff yet to fulfil these roles, which is why in phase 2 we're inviting the over 50s to come out of retirement, learn a new skill, but still have time for that round of golf. Now's your chance of performing an appendectomy that you've always dreamed of. You will be starting on a payment of £9 an hour. You will be expected to fund your own training, and of course it will affect your credit rating. If you're too selfish to help us with that, how about lend us your car? Yes, Audis for ambulances, Peugeots for paramedics. If you've got a hatchback, we've got a body to go in it. So if you want to take responsibility for the dreadful mess that we've made, you can email us at appallingalliteration@coveringthecrisiswithcrap.mywayOrzaharway.gov.uk.
Well said, Matilda. So let's move on. This, oh my goodness, this is just... Do you remember this guy? I just wanted to cover this before we move on. Matt Hancock. Let's just jump in.
Can we focus first on the reason that you left? And that was the embrace with your lover. A lot of people find it completely astonishing that you could stand at the podium month after month telling people to stick to the rules. But for some reason, they didn't apply to you. Why not?
Well, I'm only human.
I thought he was going to cry there. Remember when he started crying? No, he's going to start laughing instead.
They didn't apply to you. Why not?
Well, Yeah, I'm only human.
Sorry,
And
the whole country's only human, Mr. Hancock.
yeah, I understand that.
Why did we
I
all have to
understand
stick
that.
to the rules, but you were exempt?
Well, this is what I've asked. This is what I asked for forgiveness in the jungle for.
What a piece of crap. So I went to the jungle to ask for forgiveness. Now, you know, the 350 million pounds, sorry, 350,000 pounds or whatever, 320,000 pounds that they gave me was you know, that's not to be included, okay? In, you know, I didn't go there for the money. I went there for to ask for forgiveness.
I'm human. I've described in my book what happened and how it happened.
He's plugging his book now. Conservator Max, please. I promise I won't stay too long on this, I promise. It's like, so I just asked for forgiveness. Do you know that I also have a book that I asked for forgiveness into? It's available on Amazon at only £9.99. Do book now because they are selling fast.
And right at the end of the pandemic, but that isn't an excuse, and that's what that's why I've been open about it, I suppose. We all have our frailties, and I fell in love.
Yeah, for which people were fined.
Look, if you made a mistake, then you would say, I can't continue doing this. I've fucked up. Sorry for my language, but you'd say, look, I'm sorry, I fucked up. I need to go. How can I, deliver a speech to people night after night saying, remember to respect the rules, remember to do X, Y, and Z, when I'm not doing it myself? Like a normal person, they'd have a bit of guilt. They might do it once, hopefully not, but they might do it once and go, no, I can't do this. I just feel terrible. I'm telling people, don't hug your grandparents, don't hug your partner, don't, keep a distance from friends and family, save them. And then, once the camera is off, I run upstairs and, eat out to help out. Like, this is, he's a disgusting individual, and a normal person would just go, okay, I can't do this. This is too hypocritical. I have to go. I have to resign, or give the job to somebody else. Say that I didn't feel well, or I needed to spend more time with my fammy.
For which people went to prison for breaking the rules.
Well,
you didn't face either of those penalties.
No, because
at the time, there were social distancing guidelines, but there were also bans on two people meeting indoors unless it was at work, and that meeting was reasonably necessary for work purposes. I don't think anyone could argue what you did, Regina, was reasonably necessary. People find it remarkable that you got away with doing something that most other people weren't allowed to do.
Well, it doesn't feel like I got away with it, Susanna. I mean, that's, of course...
Why does he keep laughing? It's not funny. I didn't get away with it. I had to resign, and then, or I was fired, was it? I don't remember. There was a bit of a back and forth between Boris Johnson firing me and me resigning. You can't fire me, I quit. And then, it was so terrible that I had to go on an island where they paid me £320,000. I gave 10,000 to charity to make myself feel a bit better and try and cover my arse a bit, but that didn't really work. And now I just want people's sympathy.
Also, I wasn't, the fact that it wasn't, of course it wasn't breaking the law because the legal rules weren't in place. That's why I wasn't fined.
But there was a ban on gathering indoors of two people.
Exactly, I was about to say.
Why don't you just... Do these people not have any, understanding? Let's say, look, I'm really sorry. I broke the rules. I should have resigned. I didn't. That was wrong. I'm very sorry about what I did. It was unacceptable. I apologize now. That would have actually come across as better. But it is sort of half laughing about it, saying, oh, but what about my book? And I went into the jungle to say sorry. I went into the jungle to say sorry.
So that's just the explanation for I didn't get away with anything. In fact, on the contrary, I paid...
I didn't get away with anything. You went on for a while before you were sacked or you resigned. And then you went to you stay on a frigging island and you're paid 3 times your bloody salary. If that's punishment, I'd hate to see what reward is.
Receive a fine?
No, because what I did wasn't against the law. And you're fined for breaking the law. But I did break the guidelines, and I resigned, and I took accountability for the
Was there
for
not
my
sorry,
error.
was
By going to an island where they paid me. Oh my God. I just had to cover this because it's so ridiculous. Anyway. Moving on. UK supermarket price inflation hits a record high, adding 788 to annual bills. He's not bloody sorry, says David. No, he's not. He wanted to go on TV. Look, I'll be able to go on and plug my book. And they might ask me about the jungle. They might ask me about something else. Might ask me about my time as health secretary. And then I'll just sail through. And that's what probably he was expecting. You know, to be treated a bit like a sort of celebrity once again. And it's good that there were some journalists who held his feet to the fire. But he'll be okay. He won't be suffering. He won't be struggling. Unlike ordinary people. Thanks, David. Figures from the retail analyst Kantar showed grocery price inflation in the UK had hit a fresh high of 16.7% in the 4 weeks to January 22nd, adding nearly £800 to the typical annual shopping bill, with the price of milk, eggs and dog food rising fastest. The figure was up from 14.4%, and this is why it's important to look at food inflation, because generally what happens is the economists look at general inflation and they say, well, it's at 10% or 9% or 11%, when food inflation is much higher. And food inflation affects more people who are on the lower end of the economic scale. Has reached its highest level since Kantar began tracking the figures in 2008. The latest increase will take the average annual food shopping bill to £5,504, up £788. The monthly report also showed that no and low alcohol beer sales volumes rose 3% year on year, as many people embraced dry January. Veganery also made an impact, as sales of supermarket-owned on-label ranges labelled as plant-based or vegan jumped by 21%. Grocery sales overall rose 5.4% year-on-year during the 4-week period, and by 7.6% over 12 weeks to the 22nd of January. So it's, people are paying more. People are, as I said, food inflation is something that is generally ignored, and the focus is generally on general inflation, and that's a concern because, as I said, people are spending more of their income on food. People are cutting back on energy in order to buy food, and if the food is more expensive, it means they have to cut back more on other quote-unquote non-essentials. But I would say heating your home is an essential. Anyway, moving on from that, just wanted to touch on that. I think I'll come back to that later. Tomorrow, as you guys were reminded me, up to 500,000 to strike across the UK as talks go backwards. So up to 500,000 workers will go on strike on Wednesday, with thousands of schools shut, rail lines closed down and significant border disruption, as unions said negotiations on ending strikes were going backwards. Ministers have been accused of hoodwinking the public and freezing any more moves towards the settlement with NHS workers and rail unions. Government sources privately conceded that optimism at the beginning of the month about bringing an end to the strike action had faded. The coordinated series of strikes involving teachers, civil servants, border force staff and train drivers, with the government telling people to brace for significant disruption. And this, of course, people, as we saw before, food prices have gone up and people are struggling to pay the bills. When people are moving out of professions such as teaching or nursing, it creates an extra workload for those who remain, and that means more and more workers suffering burnout. Taking time off for sick leave, meaning that whatever staff remain are also under more pressure. And the goal of the Tory government is to break the unions, to break the strikes, not to actually resolve these conflicts and resolve these, deal with the problems that are faced by the NHS and education. It goes on to say thousands of schools in England and Wales will be closed or partially closed, with when up to 200,000 members of the National Education Union take strike action in pursuit of a fully funded above-inflation pay rise. Schools in Fife and Orkney in Scotland will also be on strike on Wednesday as part of the rolling regional action by the Education Institute of Scotland, the country's largest trade teaching union. The NEU has predicted that 85% of schools will be affected, with one survey suggesting up to 1 in 7 schools will be closed to all pupils, rising to a quarter in London. This, of course, and here we have our calendar. So on the 3rd, today is the 3rd, we had a number of strikes. Tomorrow, more strikes. And it goes on, with the exception of the weekend, in most cases, it's going on every day. There is strike action taking place. So the purple dot is education. Schools, one strike. So what are parents going to do? Children, will they stay at home? Will there be online teaching? What's going to happen? This is going to create a lot of disruption. But what is the alternative? Teachers are leaving because they are overworked and underpaid. Nurses are leaving because they're overworked and underpaid. And the government don't seem to be interested in resolving this dispute. Just another case of ignore, and hopefully it will break the strike. People will just get tired and get back to work and just take what they're given. I want to show you a clip about this.
Okay, a fundamental question to kick off with. The police are not allowed to strike by law because they are an essential service. Obviously, the fire brigade is an essential service. So what gives you the right to strike when the police don't have that right?
Well, we're not police officers. We're civilian employees with the same rights as any other civilian worker.
Here's another case of Richard Medley not understanding reality.
In Britain.
But you're an essential service.
We're civilian workers. We work for local authorities, the same as the people who clean your streets, collect your refuse, teach in your schools. So
yeah, but I'm not going to die if my dustbins aren't collected on a Monday and they come on a Wednesday.
We hope we can't. We hope we don't have to go on strike, but we have rights as workers in.
No,
this country.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
We have rights to be in the trade union.
No, I didn't mean the risk of the strike. We can come on to that. What I meant was the fire brigades provide an essential service in the same way as the police do, and I just wonder what your thinking is.
You've drawn a false analogy. Police are not normal workers. They have specific legal obligations as sworn officers. Mm-hmm. They don't have the right to join a trade union. We do have.
So it's a legalistic difference.
They don't have the right.
Look, I thought this was common knowledge. People understood the difference between, for example, firefighters and police officers when it comes to the type of job they do. But for Richard Medley, he doesn't understand the difference. You shouldn't be allowed to go on strike because you're an essential worker. But it's not about essential workers. Like, if there is a fire, it's likely that there will be a response. They're not going to let the building burn down, but they're not going to be able to respond to everything because they have to go on strike. It's not mentioned in class versus school. It's not mentioned in class versus school. Thanks, Gaz. Thanks, Gazman262. But
Right to join.
Like you have somebody on who's the head of the trade union. Wouldn't you be asking them, why do you want to go on strike? Like, what is the purpose of this strike? What do you hope to achieve? What do you want the government to do? These are the sort of questions I would ask. Not, well, you shouldn't be on strike because you're like the police or the army.
In a trade union, firefighters have the right to join a trade union. We would defend that right. Firefighters all over the world generally have the right to join a trade union. The rights for police officers may differ across the world. We talk to firefighters all over the world. Overwhelmingly, firefighters have the right to join.
I'm not challenging your right to strike. I just wanted to know what your thinking was, because a lot of people do make that. You say it's a false challenge.
So a lot of people. So this is what Richard Medley is doing, and he often does this. He says, "See, a lot of people are ignorant about these things, and I'm speaking up on their behalf." Instead of actually informing them, I'm going to speak up on their behalf, and I'm going to challenge you as an ignorant person, and you have to explain it to me because I'm an ignorant person. Instead of actually trying to inform the listeners, he's speaking up as if he is a listener, and he's not listening. This is a problem with Richard Medley. He always presents himself as, you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the people out there watching in TV land. You know, these are the questions they have, but they're not sensible questions. You know, he could easily have explained at the beginning, before he interviewed the union leader, the difference between police officers and firefighters. The fact that police officers generally can't join a union. They can't go on strike. Can you imagine if police officers could go on strike? We have a riot. Yeah, but we have nobody to attend the riot. Why? Because they're all on strike. They're at the riot. You know, you don't want, you know, if you're a state that is, you know, a little bit dodgy, you don't want the police officers going on strike, because then you have nobody to crack anyone's heads.
A lot of people do make that analogy. I don't think that's what most people are saying. The public opinion shows that there is overwhelming support. I know. If firefighters take strike action, there will be overwhelming public support by about 2 to 1. Yeah. So I don't...
And now he's agreeing with them. What was the point of that questioning? People need... And I think this is what needs to start in schools as well. Police on strike, me looting Waitrose. Now, guys, man. Get them out, Rita Devlin. Thanks, Jared. But it's like, I lost my train of thought there. Some of the comments: police officers' pay isn't as bad as firefighters. £43,000 a year once they've done 6 years, isn't it? How can a rich thief lecture anybody, especially a firefighter? I don't know the whole story of Richard Medley. Was he involved in some sort of crime in the past? Anyway, thanks for that super chat, Jared. Rita Devlin, I know that name, but I can't remember who it is. So, we can never get too far away from Tory corruption, or, well, maybe not corruption, but my local Waitrose is looted every day. It's time for a hell march. Richard Turner, great to see you on the stream. Thanks for that super chat. If Guy Fawkes fancies a comeback tomorrow, is good. Yes. Remember. We're not in November yet, but you know we can take him a bit early. Thanks for that super chat. So, Infosys, firm founded by Rishi Sunak's father-in-law in UK tax dispute. Infosys, the company founded by Rishi Sunak's father-in-law, N.R. Narawana Murthy, is a multi-million pound dispute with the UK tax authorities. Oh, that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? But, well, not really for Rishi Sunak, because he doesn't care. It's not going to really affect him. HMRC and the Indian IT services firm, in which the Prime Minister's wife Akasata Murthy holds a stake of close to 1%, disagree over a corporate tax bill of about £20 million, according to the company's annual report. It's in the same ballpark as Nadine Zawari, no? We had to pay 5, but it was on something like £23 million profit. The dispute, first revealed by the Times, is of a clutch of tax issues the company has in a range of jurisdictions, including Australia. Large tax disadvantagements that could affect the company's operations or profits often have to be disclosed to shareholders and regulators. Infosys is publicly listed in India and New York. A spokesperson for Infosys told The Guardian Infosys provides details of certain ongoing disputes with various regulatory authorities, including this specific tax matter with HMRC. The company has filed an appeal against the tax assessment in the UK and has obtained a stay on the payment of the tax demand from HMRC. Narayana Murthy is no longer involved in the direct management of Infosys after resigning from a senior role in 2014. Akasata Murthy is also not involved in running the company, but retains shares worth almost £700 million, not bad, which form a large share of the Sunak's family wealth. They have earned her tens of millions of pounds in dividends in recent years. So we have a little bit of a conflict of interest here, no? You have the Prime Minister, former Chancellor, whose wife is making tens of millions of pounds from a company that has some questionable, can I say that? Questionable tax affairs with HMRC. Is Rishi Sunak going to turn around and say, HMRC, let my family go. Leave my family alone. Everything's above board. And if you don't like it, you're going to be sacked. I have the power to sack you. Or maybe not. Or I've definitely the power to make your life a misery. Is that what's going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. Let me read some of your comments before we're getting towards the end of the stream, but I just want to read some more of your comments. I got something called Miracle Alien Cookies. That sounds nice. Fake company Infosys. What the hell do they gain by dodging takes? I'm not sure. Does she not live in number 10 now? No, I don't know where she lives. I don't think they actually live at number 10. They use it as an official residence, but I'm sure it's too small for them. Remember, Boris Johnson wasn't very happy with it. He had to get the wallpaper changed. I don't care if Mrs. Sunak is submissive. I just want to know if she pays her taxes. And some dodgy links with Russia. Infosys still trading there. Yes, this is a problem. Shouldn't there be sanctions on Russia at the moment? Well, not if it's, the company of your wife. We don't impose sanctions on, places where we do business. Sovereign Scots have power to sack any politician. Richard Medley forgot he was meant to pay the supermarket for the wine. He took the fateful day. Some said it was shoplifting, but Medley said it's not. He would never do that, as he's not a have not. Wonderful, wee Scots dog. Great to see you again. Hope you're well. I hear she is a non-dom. No, I think she renounced her non-dom status because of the heat, so she got a bit of trouble for that. So, she decided, okay, I was benefit. It cost me £30,000, but if you're earning tens of millions, you don't really care about £30,000. So she, okay, I'll take the hit. I'll lose that benefit. Make it back in other ways, probably. We don't put sanctions on where we do business. Quite funny with Brexit, yes. Rita Devlin is the director of the Royal College of Nursing. Okay. No, I thought it was... the director, and I was thinking of the General Secretary. Civil disobedience when? Yeah, it's a good question. When will it be? Okay. Sorry, Max. The submissive non-dom was my twisted humour. And I thought you were being serious. Blue passports. So, 3 years since Brexit, how has it been going? Absolutely terrible. Is it going to get better? It won't get better. Can it be made to work? Not really. What is the solution to Brexit? The solution to Brexit, as we all know, is to rejoin the EU. Then get into the single market, bring down these barriers to trade, bring back freedom of movement, get businesses working again, get people trading again, get the exchequer the money it needs to provide public services, get back into the EU. That's the way it has to go. It will eventually happen. That's the thing. You know, no matter how much Farage foams at the mouth through his dodgy teeth. This is a guy who's a multimillionaire and he doesn't go to the frigging dentist. Maybe it's all that bile. I don't know. It's bad for your teeth. The UK, or whatever's left of it after Scotland maybe leaves and Northern Ireland joins the United Ireland. Wangland, as my good friend Graham Hughes calls it, copyright Graham Hughes. Wangland will join the European Union. It's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And things will improve. This is the only way, no matter what the Brexiteers say. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came on. Thanks for smashing the like button. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Remember, you can become a member of the channel if you like, or you can become a patron if you prefer. Also, there's no obligation. You can also support the channel by sharing videos on social media. It's a great way to help. No DLC before we finish. How can we talk of civil disobedience when the UK government is already a rampant crime wave? Yes. What do you rebel against? You know, if the government is committing crime, how do you commit crime to punish the government? It doesn't really work. And it's really upsetting that the bill that something that really upset me over the last few days is how there's this distraction going on in the British media about all sorts of things when a bill, the anti-strike bill, was voted through yesterday evening. There was talking about Nicola Sturgeon, talking about Prince Andrew in a bathtub. What the hell was that about? I saw the video from Phil today. Insane. Cost of living crisis. A whole load of things are being forgotten about because there are distractions necessary. Anyway, thanks so much, No DLC. Before we finish, I want to say thanks to everyone once again. Thanks to everyone who smashed the like button. Thanks for coming on. And I'll see you on Friday. If I don't see you then, well, I'll see you maybe on the Sunday roast. But I'll see you on Friday, same bat time, same bat channel. But before we finish, we have our one for the road. So I hope you enjoy that.
Are you a government minister who's been a little bit careless, but possibly not deliberately? Did you pretend to forget about that offshore trust, then threaten to sue anyone who reminded you? Or perhaps you gave up a cushy job in the city for the chance to make a real difference to your bank balance? Well, ignore those siren voices telling you you've done something wrong. Just close your eyes and repeat the golden rule. It's not corruption if it's Britain. Exploiting a pandemic by helping your donors or leveraging your place in the House of Lords? It's not corruption if it's Britain. Taking money from the representatives of foreign governments and then just happening to do what they want? That's not corruption if it's Britain. Rewarding a friend and donor for helping you set up a loan with your cousin by giving him the top job at a much-loved institution? I mean, yes, that sounds bad, but corruption? In this country? Come on. Opponents not convinced? Put their minds at rest by launching an independent investigation run by a friend or a colleague or the father of a friend or colleague, or if you're really desperate, a colleague of your father's friend. But don't worry, they all went to Oxford, so you'll be fine. You say conflict of interest, I say synergy of influence. Because corruption is something that happens in other countries. Hot ones, probably. Can you really do dodgy deals in drizzle? And after all, politics is about helping people. And you're a person, right?
It just gets better and better. Matt is wonderful. I hope Matt is feeling better. Synergy of influences. It's not corruption. It's synergy of influence. I hope Matt is feeling better. He has COVID at the moment, so I hope he's feeling much better very soon. And we'll see him again soon. So guys, I'll be on the post-stream chat if you're a member on Discord, or if you're a member of the channel, and be on Discord pretty soon after the live stream. And I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. Take care and have a good night. Good night.